How's everybody doing? Okay, we are now going to talk about the Aquarian woman. Now, the Aquarian woman symbolizes hard, fixed air. Fixed air. Understand that fixed air is the air that sits in a basin. For example, the city of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. sits on a basin. And the air, when it's a valley, looks like this. And you got the city in the middle. So therefore, when you got huge terrains and mountains and, protrusions around the city in the basin, the air pretty much sits there. The air pretty much sits there. Another place that is like a basin is the city of Los Angeles. Whether it's flat terrain, it's smoggy. It's a smoggy city. It's a smog that sits on the city of Los Angeles. This is fixed air. Air that doesn't move, doesn't circulate. When you live in a valley, for example, in Las Vegas, Nevada, I've been to Las Vegas. I have some videos of me being in Las Vegas and doing some shows out there. And in Las Vegas is surrounded by mountains. Because, Las Vegas, the city of Las Vegas, if you know the story, was built in the middle of a desert, surrounded by huge, huge mountains that, you could be driving for hours and it doesn't look like it's moving or you're getting any closer to it. It's huge structures. So you have the air sits in places like that. It doesn't move. That's fixed air. But the concept of fixed air just doesn't have to be through a man-made structure like a city in a valley. You can live in any metropolis, even New York City, and the air quality is far different than the air quality if you go to the Berkshires. Or if you go to Yellowstone National Park, where there's lots of trees, there's lots of fresh rainfall seasonally, and the air is pure. Or you could just go to a park where there's lots of trees, and you're going to notice that the atmosphere, the oxygenation of the air where there's lots of trees, it's far different than the air, let's say, in the middle of Broadway or a major avenue where you have all kinds of carbon emissions from cars and motorcycles and what have you. So fixed air is air that can be good or air that could be bad. Very different than mutable air or cardinal air, which we described. So, in this same respect, let me put that in there right there. In this same respect, I always feel like I don't have enough lighting. I don't know why, but I always feel that way. I always feel that way. I'm just gonna have to get better quality lighting. But anyway, the same thing we can say about the Aquarian woman. The Aquarian woman is, what can I say? She's a different girl than any other girl. The Aquarian woman can be good or bad. But not good or bad in the sense of how she treats people or her intentions, because it really does come across as good or bad depending on the intentions. But generally, Aquarian women don't want to go out of their way to hurt you. But their style, their modality usually incurs a certain degree of hurt, at least where the opposite sex is concerned. This is quite a different girl, a queer girl. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to talk about the Aquarian woman. See, the Aquarian woman is paradoxical. She's paradoxical in love, and she's paradoxical in every other way possible. Okay? She is difficult to figure out. Difficult to figure out. And she's difficult to figure out because she spends most of her time in here, in her head, to the degree and to the point where a certain numbness occurs, where there's a numbing or dulling of the five senses. You know, when, for example, if you are in the cold, right? And I'm talking about like cold, like 20 degrees cold. You got a decent coat on, and you can feel the heat of your blood as your hypothalamus in the brain is stimulating more heat generation because you're in an environment that's very cold, very natural. But it gets to a point where if it continues to be cold, well, it's always going to continue to be cold if you are outside of 20 degrees. You're going to be, if you stay out there for any degree of length of time, you're going to start to feel numb because the cold does that to you. You're going to feel numb. You might feel the frost of your fingers. You might not feel them to the degree where then they start to burn because cold can burn. And then, you see the breath, the heat of the breath coming out, and you can feel the air coming inside of you. So not only are you cold in the outside, but you're becoming cold inside. And it's the most uncomfortable feeling and most uncomfortable shift in body temperature. Okay, now this is how she comes across. It's not that she means to. She don't mean to come across that way. But we're going to go into why spiritually, because as above, so below. Spiritually, we're going to discuss why this is so. Why this is psychologically sort of like a challenge for the Aquarian female to kind of make sense of it. Now, love dies in Aquarius. Yeah. She's not like Miss Pisces or the water signs that are very emotional and full of emotional breath and knowledge and even fortitude. No. This woman is emotionally detached. Yeah. She's emotionally detached from people, but she's also emotionally detached from her own emotions. And many people may misunderstand her as being a woman that lacks emotion. She comes across as cold air, which psychologically it comes across as someone who's impersonal, someone who is impersonal or indifferent. That's how coldness translates into human personality. So in the Aquarian woman, there's a certain degree of coldness, a certain degree of detachment. And you have to understand that the planetary ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. And the planet Uranus is located way out past Jupiter, past Saturn, past Neptune, but not past Pluto. Pluto is the last planet. Uranus is right in between Neptune and Pluto. Sometimes it's in between Neptune and Jupiter, depending on the orbit. But for the most part, it's in between Pluto and Neptune. It's way out there. Therefore the heat of the sun doesn't get to the planet in the 8 minutes that the heat of the sun reaches Earth. It takes 8 minutes for the light of the sun to reach Earth. That same light reaching Uranus takes over a year. Oh yeah. So it's cold out there. It's cold out in space where Uranus is. Well, Pluto is all ice. There's ice all over Pluto, the last planet in our solar system. So you can imagine Uranus. And the light of the sun is not as bright and strong as it is on planet Earth or on Mars or Venus, which are planets that are much closer. And there's another strangeness to the planet Uranus. The planet Uranus doesn't sit like a globe moving this way. It's actually on its side, spinning sideways, right? The planet with the rings. If I can make an illustration, all of the planets are usually like this, right? All the planets, right? I'm going to make a little illustration. See? These are how all the planets are, right? Jupiter, Saturn with the rings. That could be Saturn right there, right? But the planet Uranus has a very strange elliptical orbit. The planet Uranus actually spins on its side. Yeah, it spins back on its side. Instead of like this, it spins this way. And cosmologists don't understand why. They don't. The poles of the planet is not up and down; it's sideways, and the rings go this way instead of going that way. So they don't understand the morphology of the planet Uranus. It's strange. The Cassini space probe out in space have not been able to reach Uranus. They can't take pictures. Uranus is too far. They know more about Pluto than they do Uranus. And Pluto is further out there. So it's a very strange planet. Pretty much like Neptune, which rules Pisces, where they believe that the planet is all water. No land, but all water. Uranus, they don't know what's going on there. But they know that there's lots of electrical storms. And it's a really strange planet. Well, the same thing can be said of the Aquarian woman. The Aquarian woman doesn't think in the same brain waves as we all do. She comes from a totally different field of reference and experience, unlike any other of the 11 women of the zodiac. This woman is different. Her needs are different. Her requirements are scattered, and there's a certain degree of unpredictability and uncertainty in the personality of the Aquarian woman that has no measure and has no predictability as far as its triggers. You never know what triggers the Aquarian woman. So in order to understand her, we have to understand what are her basic values. What is it that this woman basically would like or want? It doesn't seem like it's something out of the ordinary. Like Miss Capricorn, her needs are also quite simple. The only way that a man can be happy with an Aquarian woman is if he lets her be who she wants to be. Let her pursue as many interests, because she does always have all kinds of interests. Let her pursue them. She also needs to be able to circulate with her friends. She may consider her friends more of a family than her own blood family. Brothers and sisters, mother, father, aunts, and uncles. The person down the street that has nowhere to go, that has no food, and can probably be a broke. She will be more endearing to that man than she will her own brother or her own family member. The Aquarian woman is very detached. Now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't love her family. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have a special esteem about her family, or that doesn't have a sense of roots. No, the situation lies in the fact that she does not want to stay in these roots. She uproots and decides to go somewhere else. She wants a different philosophy. This woman is here to experience and to go through different experiences in the hopes of learning who she is through experiences. But she wants to intellectualize it and quantify it and then brand it and say, if you go through this and if you go through that, this is the result. And therefore, anywhere in the world where there's a similar experience, that will be the same brand. It's almost like being a generic person that if A and B happens, then C must naturally follow. And that's the equation. There should be no gray area because 2 plus 2 will always be 4. She thinks very linearly, very secularly, very clinically, and very standoffishly, if I can corrupt the word for a minute. Okay. She has a lot of abilities. That's one area of socialization. The other is in the personal arena. If she has a boyfriend or if she has a husband, there are 2 things that you cannot do with this woman. Number one, don't try to domesticate her. She can be domesticated if she lives alone, even in a family setting. She can play the role, but it doesn't mean she likes it. And it doesn't mean that she's going to take delight in doing it for any length of time than she has to. She's not a domesticated type. She's not the type to spend all day in the kitchen cooking your food, preparing your food. Don't obligate her to do that. Because you'll be lucky if you get her to wash the dishes. She don't like that kind of stuff. She don't like to deal with the mundane. She'll do it if it's expected of her. And she will try to be very clever about it. This is not a very domesticated girl. I don't care what kind of presentation she may put for you to look at. She's not that type of person. Don't expect to make a sex slave out of her either. Her body is not to be an object of your sexual desire unless she wants it to be. She can have sexual desires, but the desires will be to fulfill her, not to fulfill yours. That's one thing that we really, really gotta put out there straight out. She can suddenly drop everything, including you, if she's married or boyfriend. If she's married, Tony, drop you at the drop of a hat. Don't tell you why. You won't see it coming, and she will take off and develop a totally different life than the one she had before. She will leave the old life and begin another out of the blue. But it doesn't always have to be that dramatic. She can decide to be pursuing an interest that she's been talking to you about forever, and then suddenly, without warning, do a bait and switch and go the other direction. Kind of like Miss Pisces with 2 fishes going in opposite directions, and totally pursue different interests. This woman has a constant need to feed and nourish her mind and her intellect. She must expand her field of experiences intellectually, because then it becomes a pattern that she can then, like building blocks, and decide if you do this and this will result. And she's very cold and clinical about it. And she approaches emotions the same way. She's not going to stay in the uncertainty of what emotional occurrence will bring you or not bring you. She's going to try to make sense of it intellectually. And that's where she usually makes her mistakes. Because like oil and vinegar, emotion and intellect don't mix. And one shouldn't be used to justify or analyze the other. They're just two separate faculties. Okay? She's Rapunzel. Rapunzel, if you know the fairy tale of Rapunzel, where she have to let her hair all the way down so the prince can come up and through her hair and reach her, and the prince can fall down and break his neck. He might not be strong enough to climb up just with one rope all the way that big tower. Psychologically, that is the way towards the Aquarian female's heart. It is difficult to get to her heart. She will make it almost impossible, almost like an obstacle course. And I gotta stop here. I can't believe it's already 20 minutes.